Good morning, everyone. Apologies for that. It looks like we're having a little bit of a technical glitch with the starting video, so we'll move on. Welcome to the event today. My name is Mark Baker. I'm the Head of Programme Delivery for Yorkshire Water, and I also chair the Partnership for Yorkshire. I'd like to welcome you all to our launch event today for Partnership for Yorkshire. And what we're here today to do is to have a look at how we are aligned to becoming a high-performing enterprise with our vision to be driving towards the high-performing enterprise Partnership for Yorkshire goals. This is also linked very closely to the Yorkshire Water ambition and purpose. This is a key milestone in our journey to achieving our vision in becoming one team with one identity. And we have been on this journey for nearly 2 years, as you will all know. And with already some great step changes in our performance, and just a few examples of what we've been doing over the last couple of years. We've been obviously focused in our YNET programme, which is a big challenge for us as a team across Yorkshire and the partners, and we've seen some great efficiencies already being unlocked in that arena. We've created new dashboards that provide us with some real great visibility of the programme to make some great management intervention. We've embedded a new engineering design approach and created aligned sets of health and safety standards, inductions and site mobilisation already. We've delivered a new chemical dosing standard product, which has again brought some great efficiency to the programme, especially around YNET. We've rationalised our solutions to deliver considerable efficiency across the programme, creating and establishing our programme integration team. And over the last 6 months, we've seen a considerable improvement on health and safety with 0 LTIs, lost time incidents, over the first 6 months of the programme. So I'd like to firstly thank everyone for all of their efforts. But we are now moving into our new transition as one team and one programme and aligning to the One Yorkshire Water Way. Much of this has all been done through a delivery programmatic thinking and driving in efficiency out of the capital programme. We've got much more to do, and this is the start of our focus towards driving even more efficiency to deliver the Yorkshire Water ambition. If I can take you over to the next slide, we'll just talk through the agenda for today. So we've got Liz Barber, our CEO, will talk through the Yorkshire Water Big Ambition. We'll then move forward through a video into Mark Horrobin, our Chief Operating Officer, on what this means for Yorkshire Water. I'll then take the slides again and talk through the Partnership for Yorkshire Triangle and our roadmap and our ambition. We have a guest speaker of Dale Evans. He's our infrastructure client group attendee today, and we'll talk more around the Project 13 theory and the enterprise approach. Welcome Shane Davis along. Shane is the Framework Director for Interserve and has been working very closely with the Portfolio Board and Partnership for Yorkshire to co-create a lot of the work we've been doing. And then last but not least, Amy Linford, our Head of Brand, will talk through what our brand now looks like and how that aligns with the Partnership for Yorkshire identity. We'll then run into questions and answers. By all means, keep publishing any questions along the way. We will get to the end and hopefully have 15 to 20 minutes to talk through any Q&A with the panel. And so now I'd like to hand over to Liz Barber, our CEO.
Thank you, Mark. Thanks very much. And thank you to all hugely for spending your time with us this morning. It's a delight to be part of this launch event. What I'd like to do just for a few minutes is to share with you, as Mark said a moment ago, Yorkshire Water's big ambition. And as I say it, I know that many of you will be thinking, right, I've heard all this corporate BS before. So it's my job to really explain what it's about, where it came from, and why it is so important at framing everything we're going to do here at Yorkshire Water from now on, and most importantly, how it's going to frame the Partnership for Yorkshire and the way we will work together differently. So as Mark says, a couple of years ago, we started on this journey about really thinking about whether we were going about things in the right way here at Yorkshire Water. I had a sense that we kind of lost our way a bit. We forgot what we were here for. We'd been in the press about financing structures and dividends, none of which was true, but somehow it was affecting our reputation, affecting the way we felt about the company. We'd somehow lost our pride I know that we were difficult to work with internally and with many of you, our partners, because we constantly kept getting the feedback from our surveys, from our colleague surveys, that silo working was a problem. We weren't very good at change, although we kept changing. And, you know, there was a sort of lack of direction and strategic direction in the company. So we decided to put our foot on the ball and start thinking very deeply about three things and starting again. What are we here for? What do we stand for? And how do we need to work differently together? And it was about 2 years ago, at a board meeting, I agreed with the board that we were going to do a significant piece of work with our stakeholders, our colleagues, our customers, and those in our supply chain, our partners, to ask them, you, what you think we stand for, what we're here for, what we stand for, and what the issues are at working with Yorkshire Water. And basically, we came up with what we've come up with. And I made a pact with the board that we would do this job properly. It had to be fully engaging. It really had to be done by the people of Yorkshire and the people of Yorkshire Water, the wider Yorkshire Water, including yourselves, of course, to come up with something. And frankly, if the board didn't like it, that was tough, because things as important as what we're here for, what we stand for, and how we need to work together differently should not come from the board, and it should not come from the senior leadership team. It should come from everybody who has an input and an interest in Yorkshire Water. So let's have a look at the first thing our colleagues and a wider colleagues came up with. Let's have a look at the purpose. So proud to play water's role in making Yorkshire a brilliant place to be now and always. I think that fits what we're here for. I think it fits what Yorkshire Water's here for. And when I say Yorkshire Water, I mean everybody who works with Yorkshire Water. So that really breaks into three things, really. It means we've got to do the day job well, all day, every day. So operations, we need to keep it as affordable as possible for customers. We need to make sure that our systems and our processes are slick and efficient and effective, and we know that they're not, so we've got to keep working at that. But we've just got to do the day job really well every day, because basically what we do, all of us, not just those of us with Yorkshire Water on our t-shirts or Yorkshire Water on our payslip, all of us together provide a fundamentally essential service to Yorkshire and the people of Yorkshire. It isn't much more fundamental than what we do, and I think we sometimes forget just how important that is. Now, the second element is how we do that, and how we do that matters, the impact we have on Yorkshire. So traditionally, we've concentrated on pipes and pumps, obviously, but actually we need to think about different ways of providing a long-term resilient services to the people of Yorkshire that have to take into account climate change, impacts on the environment, societal impacts. So actually how we deliver that really matters. So we need to think about carbon, and I know we'll be working with you, our supply chain and partners through the enterprise, about how we can take carbon out of our system, and we can get to net zero by 2030. That's a big issue for us. We need to make sure that we're always looking after the environment. We need to make sure that we're partnering and collaborating in the right way to get the best outcome in the most resilient way. So first element, day job, profoundly important, got to get that right. Second element is the way we do that is going to have to change if we're going to remain resilient and efficient and affordable for the long term, which means working differently, which we'll come on to. And the third element is that now and always. Irrespective of who owns us, we have to be here at Yorkshire Water doing what we do forever, because we can't not do it. We can't stop. We have to be able to do this forever. So we've got to think about the decisions we make today will affect the people of Yorkshire for the next 50, 100 years. So we've got to be really thoughtful about how we invest, about how we build, and about how we work together. So Then, so that's what we're here for, basically. It's a purpose, fancy names. That's what we're here for. And then we had to say, well, what do we stand for? And on reflection, we have been a pipes and pumps company. We've not been easy to work with. We've not collaborated. We've not got the best out of our partners. We've made it difficult for you to come to us with good ideas and be listened to and actually go, that's brilliant, let's put that into practice. It's just been a bit of a machine. And we've got to spend more time working with those who can bring great ideas. So we've got to be a people organisation. We're here to serve the people of Yorkshire. We're here to work with our colleagues and our partners to work in the very best way we can. So our new vision, or what we stand for, if we can put the next slide up, please, is to put people at the heart of everything we do. Now, that doesn't mean being nice all the time, and it doesn't mean not taking the tough decisions. It means making sure that we're working really well with you through the enterprise partnership, that everybody can come to work and do their best in fulfilling the purpose for Yorkshire. So we need to make sure we work really well with our partners, really well with stakeholders, really well with colleagues, and this is all about working really well in the way we impact customers and the people in Yorkshire. And then we went on and thought, right, we need to listen very carefully about what it's like to work with us here and as part of Yorkshire Water. And that's where we came up with the behaviours, or you really came up with the behaviours. And 3 of them respond directly to feedback that we need to get better. And 1 is something that we just have here at Yorkshire Water and here in Yorkshire. So the first, we own it. That's all of us saying, right, we know what needs to be done. We know it's not right, whatever it is. We know we need to change it. Let's get on and change it. Let's not wait for permission. Let's not wait for somebody to tell me I need to do it. If something's not right, let's get it sorted and let's see it through to the end. Because there's a sense here at Yorkshire Water, I'm sure you've found the same thing at times, is that sometimes we all know there's a problem, but nobody sort of gets on and does it. Nobody feels empowered to step forward and just get on with it. Or maybe they're a bit fearful of having a go and it going wrong. But we can't improve, we can't deliver our purpose in the way we need to for Yorkshire if we all kind of look at problems and sort of stare at them for too long. We've got to get on with making the little changes every day. The second thing is that we're better together. We've been told for years that we're silo workers. We're busy within Yorkshire Water breaking down those barriers. The leadership team is really focusing on stretching across the boundaries, solving problems together, and that is nowhere more important than in the enterprise partnership, in the partnership for Yorkshire. This is where it can really, really sing, and we need to start really working really well together. And there's some fantastic examples I know we'll hear about later about where that's already happening brilliantly. Then the point, we're always learning. We get the feedback, we make mistakes, then we make them again and we make them again and we make them again. And that must be massively frustrating for the people involved and massively frustrating for the people who work with us here at Yorkshire Water. So we've got to be courageous. We've got to feel it's okay to try things out. And it is okay to try things out. It's all right for it not to be a success. The deal is try things out, innovate, have a go, try and do things differently. The only deal is that the learning is shared so that other people can learn from the experience of doing things differently. So people should not be afraid to own it. People should be feeling empowered and happy and okay about trying new things. And also, but actually making sure that the lessons are learned, we will all be all the richer for it. So those are the 3 that we thought we needed to crack. We need to work differently to get better at what we do here. But the last one, we have heart, is something that is consistent within Yorkshire. Yorkshire Water is just part of Yorkshire. We're a Yorkshire company. We say what needs to be said. We're respectful. We get on with it. We don't mess about. But you know, Yorkshire is a very diverse place. So we take that Yorkshire spirit with us in the way we work with each other, the pride we have in what we do, the pride in our county, the pride in the services that we bring to the people of Yorkshire. But we are also a very, very diverse place. And also, the Yorkshire Water should have a family feel to it. It does in many places, so we need to look after each other. Again, whether you're a directly employed Yorkshire Water colleague or part of the bigger enterprise family. So what I'm going to do now is shut up. We're going to have a look. Hopefully the video will work. We have heart, and then we're going to hear from our COO, Mark Horrobin, and thank you for listening.
I'm Sean Muscadini. I'm a leakage inspector for Yorkshire Water. I had a few issues that I needed occupational health to help me with, and they did. And I've gone from being as low as a worm's belly to cloud nine now. I get up in the morning, happy as Larry, come into work and do my job. And it's all thanks to occupational health.
I was working in Lighthouse.
St Patrick's Ball, and it was to get people back into a workplace and be more integrated within a workplace so that they felt comfortable getting to and from work.
The Lighthouse project helped me get a job. I like my job because I like working on computers and looking at figures.
We have seen a difference in Patrick to start with. Obviously, he was quite reserved, whereas now he's a full member of the team. He's happy to get involved in activities, meetings, off-sites that we do. So he's really integrated within our team.
I feel more confident now I work for Yorkshire Water. Having a job's a good thing, instead of being bored.
I'm now a volunteer and a qualified mental health trainer through Yorkshire Water. Can't thank them enough. We have heart.
We have had.
I love that video. It's really, really good. Morning, everyone. My name is Mark Horrobin, and I'm Chief Operating Officer of Yorkshire Water. Can I extend my welcome to that of Liz's and to Mark's? I know the team here are very excited about today as we kick off the Partnership for Yorkshire. And I do know there's been a lot of work gone on behind the scenes. I want to thank my own team, but I particularly want to thank you as partners for being part of this as we set off on this journey together. My background is not one of water, so I am actually still learning. I come from the world of tech and telecoms, having driven large transformation programs in those sectors. During my time at EE, we discovered something called the cloud. At the time, it was a new place to store data, to manage transactions, and to interact with customers. And I certainly remember it being new, and not many people, frankly, trusted it. Many telcos held back. They kept their on-premise equipment. It was costly, it was unreliable, and it was tricky to scale. But those like EE, which led the industry, really did benefit. And today we find cloud services at the center of every telco and every company. It's become the new way of doing business. So why is this story relevant to the Partnership for Yorkshire? Well, I think we actually in the water sector have a similar journey to make so that we make the world of capital sustainable for customers, for our employees, for the regulator, for our shareholders, for the environment, and yes, for our partners too. So like the telecoms industry, we have to find a new way of doing business. Now, it might not be as radical as the cloud, but in the interests of all our stakeholders, we do need to find a new way. So what's our ambition? We've already heard from Liz. It's about putting people at the heart of everything we do. But let me just briefly unpack this. We want to do three things. Firstly, we want to deliver a new commercial approach which incentivizes and sustains solutions through a people culture that ensures collaboration and benefits for all. To me, it's clear. To my team, it's clear. We are better together. And as we've listened to partners, it's clear that we do need a new commercial approach which drives collaboration and which benefits all people. Secondly, with your help, we are committed to developing a best-in-class delivery model, knowing we need to act sustainably whilst recognising the wider impacts for society. Even in my short time here at Yorkshire Water, it's really, really clear to me that we have some absolute brilliant people in Yorkshire Water and across our partners. They are incredibly committed. And I appreciate the Partnership for Yorkshire is at its early beginnings, and it won't be perfect. But let's have the ambition to be best in class, to align with the government's infrastructure around building better, about building greener, and building faster. But let's do better than that. Let's go beyond that. I'm sure we can do more so that we can be best in class. Thirdly, as Liz has already said, our purpose is to play water's part in Yorkshire. And that not only means supporting our local economy, but also with our partners is giving everyone the opportunity to develop their capabilities. Wouldn't it be great if the capabilities we develop under the Partnership for Yorkshire could be exported to the rest of the industry? That would be brilliant for Yorkshire and brilliant for our local economy. So that's the what. That's what our ambition's about. So how about the how? How are we going to get there? Well, we want the customer outcome at the heart of our capital delivery. This means we want alignment of goals, removing wrong business models which drive wrong behaviours. That's so frustrating. This also means we also need to know our asset base better and therefore being able to articulate the correct solution to get the right outcome. So it's a really big part that Yorkshire Water needs to play as well. A good example of this is the Early Start scheme at Sutton-on-Forest, which is part of the YNET programme, which Liz and Mark have already mentioned. In previous years, this scheme would have cost around just over £5 million. But now that we have a better understanding of our asset base, we can identify a better solution to drive the same output, reducing the cost of the scheme to around 2.4 million, which means we can do with more with our partners with the money we've saved. We also want to drive the affordability of the programme. As you know, our final determination has been really, really tough, and you've probably read a lot about it in the newspapers around the CMA. But we do need to find some considerable efficiencies. So in some circumstances, we will need a more value-driven approach, exploring new engineering standards while balancing risk. A good example of this is the recent rationalisation of our chemical dosing rigs. The good news is that by working with partners, working with you, we have a far better design, which is far more affordable. The bad news is it took Yorkshire Water far too long to agree to this. In fact, it took over a year. So we need to improve that. And that's a good example of how we're not going to be perfect. So we're always learning as we go along our way. We also want to drive productivity. If we're honest with ourselves, and we want to be honest, we know our productivity has been flat for decades, and perhaps in the past, Yorkshire Water, as Liz has already said, has been a blocker to this. So we need to drive an outcome value incentivization, and we need to leverage all our talent together. And I guess given my background, I'm keen that we do leverage technology to improve our decision making and make better value judgments. I think the home Hallam wastewater treatment works example is very, very good. A couple of years ago, we would have been pegging out this site to build 2 sludge lagoons, and the whole process probably would have taken around 7 months. This year, using technology and engineering proficiency, using GPS and sat-nav operated vehicles, we have done the same task in 7 weeks. That's amazing, isn't it? Comparing 7 months with 7 weeks is extraordinary, and we need to do more things like this. So let's bring the Yorkshire talent together. Let's stimulate our skill base, and let's leverage the use of technology to make us more productive. We also want to drive a more sustainable delivery model. We're really, really passionate about investments in our asset health, but as we focus on better outcomes and driving more efficiency, we want to refund all our efficiencies into a wider portfolio of activity. So in some schemes, this might mean we build less, but this will enable us to build more schemes overall, and we can make our capital go further with our partners. We also want to engage and empower and collaborate with our supply chain, and obviously this is part of the big purpose of today, so that we move from those tiresome transactional relationships to one which is more collaborative, where we strive for better solutions together. We've done this with MPS and NMCN on chemical dosing. It's really a great example, but we need to do more. And finally, we do need to take our approach to health and safety as seriously as ever. We want to have one approach for us all. And as partners, I'm sure there are many, many learnings we can share to keep our people safe. So let's make that together an absolute priority for us. So I hope that's helpful. Our ambition is that we want to put people at the heart of everything we do. That means we want to drive a new commercial approach which benefits all. We want, with our partners, to be best in class and be ambitious about that. We want to play water's role in Yorkshire, developing our capability together to the benefit of the Yorkshire economy. I hope that's clear. I hope you as partners are as excited as us, and that you want to join us on this new journey as we create the Partnership for Yorkshire. Thank you for your time today. I appreciate these are really uncertain times, but the Partnership for Yorkshire, I want to say, is certain. So let's stick together, as I truly believe we will be better together. I think we're going to have a video on that, and then I'm going to pass over to Mark Baker. Thank you for your time.
Holland Myers Lane is our brand new wastewater treatment works out near Withensea on the East Yorkshire coast. At significant risk of coastal erosion, the existing works needed to be relocated, and so with the help of Ward and Burke, we are now on site with construction well underway. The new wastewater treatment works consist of 2 large treatment cells which hold over 140,000 cubic metres of sewage. The solution is an ultra-low carbon and low total OPEX cost. This project has been challenged from the outset by interface with internal and external stakeholders, and a great deal of work by the project team has led us to where we are now. The project is now operating ahead of schedule, and through working together, Wardenburg and Yorkshire Water will be able to deliver the new works more than a year sooner than originally anticipated. We are working hard as one cohesive team, and with open and honest communication to tackle challenges and find solutions. I feel that it is a shining example of where we are better together. What better together means to me is delivering as one team rather than us and them. Something which I have experienced in the past, as I'm sure a lot of people on this call have, and a lot of people in the wider companies and partner organisation. I think by being one project team, where everybody is accountable and everybody is responsible, we come out with better outcomes. We deliver better projects, and we save time, we save money. As a project manager, obviously, time and money is key. Anything that we can do to drive efficiencies works wonderfully. I think personally, I've demonstrated the better together ideal and behaviour through trying to keep close contact with all stakeholders, support services, external influences such as local councils, local councillors, the general public. By doing that, it has really helped in the local area to make sure we don't hit any obstacles that we might have fallen foul of otherwise. On the day-to-day running of the project, I try to be contactable, open and honest. Any issues that come up, we try to resolve as a team. And as Yorkshire Water's project manager, I'm happy to take anything away that I need to do within the organisation to try and make life easier on site to, again, ultimately win back time and money. I'm very proud of the site at Holland. As the first large site that I've delivered for Yorkshire Water, I couldn't really have asked for a better project and a better contract partner to do it with.
Oh, wow, what a great video. I think, there's some quite powerful messages coming across that I'm hoping everyone's really getting clear on, and, how this is really moving us into a different world and a different transformational environment. So what I'm going to take you through now is just a few more bits of detail around our plans for the Partnership for Yorkshire and understand how that aligns with the Yorkshire Water ambition that you've obviously heard from Liz and Mark recently. So this is our kind of pictorial representation of what Partnership for Yorkshire is about. We co-created this with our partners. So this is not a Yorkshire Water signal. This is actually something that's coming from all of us as a partnership and what we want from a partnership. So just to point to some of those areas there, we've got the Yorkshire Water purpose, but underpinning all of this is our behaviours. And that's going to be one of the biggest parts of our journey, is to really own it, always learn, be better together and have heart. And that will underpin our goals. So as a Partnership for Yorkshire, we've settled on 5 big goals that we feel will really bring to life our mission and our vision to be a high-performing enterprise. That's taking safety beyond zero, be the employer of choice, revolutionising programme delivery, delivering value-driven quality customer outcomes, and having an aligned and integrated supply chain. And I think it's important to note that this is not just about partners and probably Yorkshire Water programme delivery that, as something that has maybe been an issue that we've had to address over the last 2 years. This is all of us, all of Yorkshire Water, all of our partners, all of our supply chain, getting together, aligning against our outcomes, delivering and incentivised safe and sustainable solution that benefits all. And that means all, it's not just about Yorkshire Water. The most important part of this delivery in this type of model is our mindsets and behaviours, and we will all need to work extremely hard to making this a success. It creates a complete line of sight and helps us to become one team and one Yorkshire Water. Can you take us to the next slide, please? So how do we get there? So we've been working very hard in the background as a team to understand what our current maturity levels are and how we actually mature across each of the goals to achieving our highest level of target maturity and becoming the high-performing enterprise. So what you can see on this strategic roadmap are the 5 goals around the perimeter and our timeline with the shaded graphical representation identifying the different levels of maturity that we will go through. So some of these, like revolutionising programme delivery, are much more tactically focused. There are things we can do and rapidly move towards maturity. So this is showing a targeted maturity within 2023, whereas others, as you can imagine, are very much around our culture, our behaviour, and when you consider the supply chain as a whole, we have a long journey to go on. So taking safety beyond zero, delivering value-driven quality customer outcomes is not just the Yorkshire Water ambition. This is our partners' ambition, and we need to bring our supply chain along with us on that journey. So they take a little bit longer to do, but we will be striving and stretching ourselves to achieve that ambition as quickly as possible. Why are we doing this? Well, I think the key thing to understand is our affordability challenges. You heard earlier from Mark and Liz around that. However, that shouldn't be our only need to actually deliver this. We want to have a sustainable delivery model. We want to ensure that our teams, our people across our whole community are safe. We want to be the employer of choice. It's not just about money. It's about making this a really great place to work for all of us and creating that great behaviour and a high performing team, which if any of you have ever been in before, is a really great place to be. So let's not get hung up completely on the 870 million of efficiency we have to drive. Yes, absolutely, that is the biggest purpose that we are here for. But we need to use our TOTEX solution hierarchy. We need to drive out bureaucracy. We need to remove waste. We need to use off-site manufacturing and production style manufacturing techniques, driving productivity on our sites, putting the customer and our people at the heart of everything we do. And this will enable us to become a high-performing enterprise. Behind this strategic roadmap, there's a lot more detail, and we'll share that detail with you after the event through our program boards and steering groups and through our agile working platforms. We've now also launched our program integration team, who are very much at the heart of driving this level of transformation. And that program integration team is made up of all our partner communities. There are very few Yorkshire Water colleagues in there, and we'll also bring in a cross-business intelligence. We've got people from the tech sector, aerospace. We've got people from rail and lots of other industries that are bringing great learning to this and helping us to drive that kind of productivity. Our customer promise sits at the centre of this journey, and to achieve this level of efficiency, I am sure you will all agree, we need everyone's engagement and support. We will now have a short video on our behaviour. We are always learning, and after that you'll hear from Dale Evans from the Infrastructure Client Group. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Alex G. I'm a project manager working on the partnership for Yorkshire. This is Brad Witt from Footprint. Been helping with the mobile application development specific to the DG5 scheme. Interesting project. Received a call from Alex with a very specific requirement. We have a core product that manages job management, people management, asset management with a site data collection and mapping element. We looked at Alex's requirement, had a couple of meetings, scoped it out, designed it, straight to site within, I think, 10 days. Obviously, there's no perfect solution, so we've been developing as we've been learning from site, feedback from the site guys, and so far, so good. It gives us a platform to report accurate data back to the client live from site. It also incorporates the mapping side of stuff, which helps us collate the redlining information back to Yorkshire Water. Basically, be able to give them a shape file that goes back into their system, which I don't believe anybody else is doing at this moment in time. And it gives obviously those as managers the tools to manage the scheme, have live data, see what the guys are doing, whether productivity needs to improve, stuff like that. So and the guys at Footprint are ever changing with the dashboard side of stuff, which is helping me be able to report to my managers. We are always learning.
Morning everybody. Hope you all hear me okay, and great to be joining you on this launch event. As Mark said, I'm currently chair of Project 13, so I wanted to give you a quick run through on background of Project 13, why it came about, what it advocates, a little bit about progress, and at the end just maybe share some reflections from some. And of course, the context here is that Yorkshire are a core part of the adopter group. So just in terms of where it comes from, Project 13 as an initiative is ultimately owned by the Infrastructure Client Group, which is economic infrastructure owners across the UK, by the Institution of Civil Engineers, and by the Infrastructure Project Authority, which is the infrastructure part of Treasury. So it has some pretty broad backing. And back in, I think, 2014, Treasury came to ICG and said, look, we recognise the need for a new delivery model. We need to change the way we deliver infrastructure, and it needs a new delivery model. So this slide just picks up on what was that original business case, and what sits behind this need. So I'm just going to pop you through these points, and forgive the slight generalisation as I do, but it's important we keep sight of why we do need to change the way we work. So the first bit, top left, already been mentioned a couple of times, productivity. Construction productivity runs completely out of kilter with other sectors, and on that graph is the orange line. So when you look at sectors like manufacturing, which is the top grey line, which has run at 2 to 3% productivity improvement year on year for 20 years, construction is 0.8%. Not per year, in total over a 20-year period. And I guess the key point there is we can argue about whether we measure it the right way. We can maybe argue about some of the data, but we can't argue that construction does run completely out of kilter. So something that all parts of the industry needs to work to improve, particularly as we look to an era when infrastructure is going to be of significant national importance. The second top right bit is this point about sustainability, which again has already been touched on a few times this morning. And many of you will have seen the Farmer report, which looked at this particular point and highlighted that if you take the top 100 contracting organisations in the UK, they've earned average margins of just over 1% across a 10-year period. So that says something about sustainability of the industry. It also highlights that with margins like that, the opportunity to invest in future capability, future innovation is limited. So the unsustainability and the productivity start to work together and spiral. And this isn't a comment on contracting. I think the important point is it's the continued focus on cost-based competition and the race to the bottom that has actually created a pretty dysfunctional industry. And again, forgive the generalisation, but the reality is that we've created models which are sometimes more about turnover and cash flow than they are about genuine returns. So definitely a need for a new business model. And then the third is the digital transformation piece. And we spend a lot of time talking about the opportunities with digital, and even then we're probably underestimating the impact, both digital infrastructure, so intelligent and smart assets, and then also digital in how we build. And the reality is our current business model is not appropriate for digital. So as digital is integrating information, integrating teams, integrating organisations. We have historically worked in an in-series model, client, consultant, contractor, supply chain, creating interfaces and creating boundaries. So we need a much more integrated model to take full advantage of the digital opportunity. So that's the business case. And what we did in response was not go away and develop some new theory or hypothesis. A team was brought together. It was headed by University College London. And they went away and researched exemplar projects. So while that might be the general industry picture, there were some exemplars, programs and projects that had bucked this trend and had actually done so for an extended period of time. So they researched the characteristics of those exemplars. What is it that underpins that level of performance? And I guess the really important point there is that this isn't a theory, it's not a hypothesis, this is current industry best practice. And is anybody a well-developed, mature, high-performing enterprise? No, but all of the aspects that we're talking about are evidenced somewhere within the infrastructure sector. So current best practice, and a collective learning that I'll come back to as I go through the latter parts of the presentation. So if you could just go to the next slide, what did this team come back after the research and say? So they said what's going on in these exemplars is there's a shift from transactions to enterprises. And again, forgive the slight generalizations, but I'll characterize what they meant by that. So in terms, if you look at how we deliver infrastructure, it tends to be through a very transactional model. It's dominated by primary relationships between clients, consultants, and contractors. It's usually put together through procurement or contracts. So actually, it's not a relationship; it's a transaction, and in a way that generates a whole bunch of fairly perverse behaviours. So again, Project 13 more confidently talks about behaviour underpinning effective models, and again, you've heard a lot about that already this morning. What behaviours did it create? Well, lots of stuff around gaming. Creates very adversarial conditions, and is underpinned by this really, client, contractor, parent, child dynamic that you really don't find so prevalent in other sectors. So, how do we move to models which generate more value-adding behaviours? It's also, because it is dominated by those primary relationships, it's pretty unaware or ignorant of the wider supply chain piece. And if you look across infrastructure generally, those relationships only cover about 55% of what we spend. So there's a big chunk of cost that sits outside those relationships, but there's also a huge innovative potential that comes from the wider supply chain. So again, it's sort of dysfunctional. It's very linear, narrow view of the relationships we need to form. And what they said is these exemplars move to enterprises. Enterprises are more integrated, collaborative. They're focused on outcomes, so they're brought together to deliver the better outcomes from infrastructure investment, not brought together to deliver scope or deliver work. They're much more about value than they are just about least cost. So you're into different approaches to procurement and different reward models. They spend a lot of time creating alignment in the relationships and in the whole enterprise. So again, really interesting how much we've already heard about the desire to create much more aligned relationships and to do that through the whole supply chain. A really interesting point is they came back and said that if you look at these exemplars, they actually spend an awful lot of time talking about creating the environment for high performance. So something that we're probably familiar with in our own organisation, but when we actually bring different organisations together within the capital programme, we maybe don't spend so much time about thinking about right environment, environment for high performance, and integrated teams. So in an enterprise, creating and sustaining integrated teams becomes a competency. They're also about the wider ecosystem, and that sounds like a very organic word, doesn't it? But organisations, I'll touch on it later, organisations like Heathrow are already referring to ecosystems, and what they're trying to get away from is that old hierarchical tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 language that dictates the nature of our relationships. So let's understand this is a network, a set of relationships, not as a hierarchy. And then importantly, in terms of how we deliver, it's getting away from traditional civil engineering, traditional forms of engineering, into something that when we deliver feels much more like a production system. Degrees of standardization, repeatability, and production thinking. So that's the overall shift that Project 13 research identified and that the team came back and shared with us. And if you just go to the next slide, it's a set of principles. I'm not going to go through these. 5 capability areas, a set of principles. A couple of important points. I mean, it is a set of principles. It's not a contract. It's not a checklist. It's not a menu. So we've already had some feedback from some of the early adopters who, once they reached the point of commitment, said, "Well, where's the contract? Here's the contract that now enables us to make this shift." It isn't. It's a way of working and it's an approach. So it's important we do see it as a set of principles. I guess the other point is, if you look through those, I don't think they look outlandish. They don't look like they're extreme. A lot of them look like common sense. But the reality is, they are a different way of working, and they bump into some pretty embedded practices. So you can't get away from the reality that actually making this shift is quite hard work and relies on commitment and perseverance and constancy, I guess. So those are the principles. If you move on to the next point, I'll just talk about progress. So since, I guess, Project 13 was first launched in about 2018, we've seen a number of organisations use it to underpin either their whole programme or parts of their programme. These are the current formal early adopters, and you can see quite a cross-section, quite a spread in terms of maturity and sectors, but a group that is now openly sharing and learning collectively as we move towards these enterprise models, which is probably for me the most exciting bit about all of this. It's not an initiative, it's actually a movement. There are others. So Smart Motorways Programme, which is Highways England, is also adopting Project 13 principles. Sydney Metro is in the early stages, but adopting Project 13 principles. And if you look more widely, examples like Watercare, which is part of Auckland Regional Council, adopting similar enterprise type models. So point of that is these principles resonate across a really broad base. And as we progress, then we're expanding that whole learning base. Recently, the World Economic Forum have also adopted Project 13 as a partnership initiative. And they did so because within their cities and infrastructure platform, they recognised the need for a new delivery model. We're going to set up their initiative and came across Project 13 and have adopted that. And what they're currently doing is trying to drive that into places like North America and Canada. So again, principles resonate and across a broad base. So just really latterly on the last slide, I wanted to share some of the learning that comes from the early adopters so far. A great group of world-class organisations collectively implementing and collectively learning. What are some of the things that stand out? Well, the first bit is it requires really clear owner commitment. For obvious reasons, because this requires owner leadership, it requires a change in the way we work, and it requires owners that are also prepared to challenge themselves about how they change and how they adapt. And again, really interesting. We've heard a lot about that this morning, and I think the commitment bit comes across really strongly. And I know from working with Mark and the team that both the commitment is there, but also the readiness to change. So, a really important point. It might seem obvious, but our industry does have examples where owners have moved to different delivery models, seen as a challenge just for the supply chain, with the inevitable results that follow all of that. One of the other really interesting learning points so far is that this is about pulling relationships further up the value chain. It is about engaging with partners earlier. It is about working at an outcome level, not at scope level. And what's happened for some of the early adopters is actually that it's taken time for partners to step into that space. And for a period of time, they've almost had this uncomfortable vacuum when it's almost like there's a pause. And that's not about organisational commitment. I think what's going on there is that client contractor dynamic is so embedded that our teams take some time to adjust to the new environment, and they don't step up and they don't fill that space. So there is a bit where it is a change. It does take some time, but what we can't let happen is that to become a frustration, because then we'll swing the pendulum back the other way. So I think 4 of those current early adopters are working hard in exactly this point at the moment. How do we get our partners to step into the space that's been created? Some obvious points, but there's early adopters coming back and saying, one of the real differences here is we've had the opportunity to collectively develop a plan. We're working together on a plan, we're co-developing, we're co-owning, and again, I've heard the term co-create 3 times this morning. And that seems simple, but that's not the way we've historically worked. We've historically worked by owners pre-deciding and dictating the approach we're going to take. So co-creation is a huge opportunity, which is why it's actually encouraging to hear people say we haven't got all the answers yet, because we want to work collectively to develop those answers. On this point of visibility and transparency, enterprises create huge amounts of visibility and transparency. That becomes enormous opportunity, but it's also uncomfortable. We are working in an environment where all aspects of our performance and the way we work become very visible, not only to the owners, but to our peers and to the wider supply chain. So, real opportunity, but very uncomfortable. And then this point about focusing on establishing the right environment. So all the early adopters get that, but we could still all be going further. You cannot put too much focus on effort, energy, investment in creating an environment for high performance, and recognizing that we're bringing organizations together to work collectively and collaboratively, and that needs to be enabled by the right environment. So, let's say so far, all the early adopters are doing it, but nobody's doing too much of it. You probably can. And the obvious last point, which I've already mentioned, this is different. The principles look common sense, but it is different because it does bump into some pretty embedded practices. So it's change, and it's behavioural change, and therefore it can be hard work. So it brings you back to the point about leadership, commitment, and pushing on through those difficult periods. So that's a quick whistle stop tour, but really exciting to have Yorkshire Partnership as part of that group and as part of what is a really exciting group of world-class organisations collectively learning as we do all of this. So I think I'm going to now pass on to Shane Davis, who I think is going to speak on behalf of one of the Yorkshire contract partners.
Good morning, everybody. My name's Shane Davis. I work for Intersurf Construction. So like many of you, my journey, as well as a lot of us on this call, started just over a year ago now at the welcome events for many of the frameworks, and that was very much at the start of when the enterprise was born. We were involved in various steering groups, and I suppose Dale's touched on it about the co-creation. Right from the outset, a lot of the partners were all involved in setting up these steering groups. What was their purpose? What was our terms of reference? And that was really quite different and quite encouraging to see that right from the outset that we had this. We had this engagement with Yorkshire Water, and we really started to break down some barriers. I'm really proud to say that myself and Phil Friend from Eric Wright and Paul Ducker, we were actually elected onto the portfolio board at that time, just to represent all the steering groups. So very much right at board level, all the steering groups had a voice, and somebody that was in them. And really trying to set the direction for the enterprise at that time, which was fantastic. It really was. And what we've got now, 1 year on today, is very much the Partnership for Yorkshire. So it has evolved. We are going to be a learning organisation, and we're very much going to be taking that forward, that ethos of learning and ever evolving all the way through the rest of the AMP. So I just want to pause a minute and just talk about, traditionally the ways of working that we've had before, and that's not just in AMP6 and Yorkshire Water. That's with other clients as well. It's looking at projects with every project is different. Every project needs to be designed and delivered different. Teams potentially working in silos. Not talking to each other, and behaviours down into companies working in their own right and not together. Now that was very much the AMP6 way, the old way of working, and that's not to say there wasn't some fantastic examples of jobs and projects delivered in AMP6. There was it was a good AMP, but the challenge that we've got from the efficiency challenge and from taking safety really beyond zero, and really revolutionising programme delivery, really needs something quite special and quite different to really do that. So this is why we've got now the Partnership for Yorkshire. It is an enterprise model, and it's going to give us fantastic opportunity really to start taking this forward. And I think what was good to see in AMP6 was the direct delivery model that was used, and that's really been a lot of the partners, including Yorkshire Water, were using that best athlete approach, and that ethos has really been taken through now to the Partnership for Yorkshire as we know it today. I am really personally very excited about the platform now that this is going to give, the Partnership for Yorkshire is going to give the partners, and it's really going to enable revolutionised delivery methods going forward into AP6, which we really do need. We are going to have to be brave. We are going to have to be innovative, and we are really going to have to work together to really get the best outcomes. So the round bill that you can see in front of you really represents the whole project life cycle, through concept and definition into development, and then integration and benefits realization. So at that, you've got strategy, you've got tactical planning and sponsorship, outline design and build, and then program delivery and assurance. So what this represents is functions. So rather than us working in silos and standalone projects anymore, this is about breaking down them barriers and very much working in functions all around the life cycle of the enterprise. And so just examples of that, if we think in the design and build arena, looking at standard designs. Now, very much as I said at the start, we do tend to design things on a project by project basis. So this is really trying to change that total mindset now and looking at more into a production mentality. Car companies don't design every single car to actually, design it every single time for every single constraint and every single road and every single weather. What they actually do is they do it one car that can deliver multiple conditions, and they design it once, and then once they learn it, they update the design, and then you get an updated model. And I think going forward into that mentality about, well, let's only design it once, let's look at mass producing that design, and we'll get bigger benefits through more efficient ways of delivery. We'll end up building less and building very smart. So that type of mentality, looking at working in these program boards that we're going to work in and sub-program boards, looking at, well, how as partners and design teams can we look at just designing that and using the same design over a number of projects and number of programs, and that will give us efficiency. And one thing I'm really passionate about is off-site build, and using that production mentality. Time and time again, we've seen the benefits of off-site build in that production mindset. You've got less time on site. You've got less risks involved with working on site and working in all kinds of weather conditions. If you can remove that away, take that risk away, so you're not working at height, you're not working in all them weathers. Actually, that's really protecting our teams and really striving for that beyond zero challenge that we've got, and also really putting people at the heart of everything we do. So we are trying to, look at that off-site build, and that's going to give us, massive benefits overall. What I'd also like to talk to you about is also even looking at how do we work together, better together in integration and handover, and working as one. And that can be as simple as standardising, handover and commissioning documents, and actually how we get all these assets actually, working in a smooth transition. So for our service delivery partners, that actually we really are giving them a high quality handover, high quality product, and that we're not affecting anything on process or output at all once we're in that. So really, through all these functions, with the mindset that we want is it's using best athlete approach through all that. Now we have got such a fantastic opportunity with the 25 organisations plus that we've got in the Partnership for Yorkshire. Now initially that felt like, well, there's a lot of us, but the more and more I've got into it, actually what we're seeing is the capability within the Partnership for Yorkshire and the 25 plus organisations that we've got. There's so much skills, there's so much learning, even learning from outside organisations of, outside water sector, should I say, that that we just want to draw on that. And this isn't using what's best for one individual company. It's what's best for the enterprise, and that's not to say it won't be sustainable for all, for everybody, because the incentivisation model still needs it to make it sustainable. Because fundamentally, the whole of the enterprise, it needs to be an ecosystem, but it needs to be a sustainable and healthy ecosystem. So, but it's still about trying to bring that best athlete approach to everything. Now, Mark talked about right at the start our maturity, and yes, we are at the start of the maturity for the Partnership for Yorkshire from the enterprise. It does seem quite a daunting task, but what I'm really pleased to see is some examples that I've seen personally, that this mentality that we're looking at, this mindset that we're looking at, these behaviours that we're really wanting to see, they're really starting to, we're seeing them even in this over this year, first year. So one of the examples I want to talk to you about is the P2P programme. So this is a programme through the minor MICA framework. This is with Yorkshire Water and some of the contract partners. And what I've personally experienced right from day one was that the team working together, sharing best practice from AMP6. There's not been any barriers. There's not been any intercompany. Well, we Hungry Hippo approach. Actually, it's what's been best for the enterprise, and really taking a program first. It's been very much working together, and that from a behavioural piece has been such pleasing to see from my point of view and many people's point of view. There's a real team ethos there, and I think that's yet again a fantastic example of what we can do, what we will do, going forward, and that taking that ethos across a load of further sub-programme work will be really excellent. Another one is on the Wynett procurement programme now. Martin Jolly's team, really kicked that off right at the start with looking at a standard design on that, which really then gave us the opportunity to look at, well, now we've got that standard design, now we're going to start procuring chemical dosing equipment. How can we really use that Partnership for Yorkshire approach to look at that procurement, rather than standalone companies going buying kit on their own and using different terms of reference, etc., terms and conditions, should I say. How do we actually buy that as one? How do we buy that as a bulk buy? How do we really leverage that? But that's not just to say that's about price. That's also about confirming that we've got commitment and capability in the supply chain actually to deliver it. So we deliver the Wynett programme. Now this procurement's been led by Chris Wilcott from MMB, and so Chris, as well as some of the other partners from Wardenburg, Glenaqua and Interserve. So we've been a part of that, working with Liz Buck and Ian Dunwell. And I think it's still early days yet, but yet again that's another fantastic example that I've seen where that enterprise Partnership for Yorkshire thinking, co-creating it together, has really been good to see. And then another challenge that we had was just on Withensea. Now that come into the complex framework partners. Now Withensea, I know we spoke about that today, is that had a real massive efficiency challenge on it. Now the partners come together to try and look at that challenge all together and try to use best practice and learning to say, well, how can we really beat this efficiency challenge that we've got? Now Wardenburg really stepped it up. They brought a new innovative low carbon option to it, and as you can see, we are really getting the benefits of that now. And that type of mentality, that challenge, that innovative, looking at what's out there, working together, using best athlete to deliver the projects is that mentality that we want through all these functions, as you can see them today. So I guess from my point of view, just before I sign off, I think, from working together in the Partnership for Yorkshire in these functions, using best athlete approach, breaking down these barriers, these intercompany barriers, and really looking at the production mentality is really going to help, the enterprise deliver revolutionary program projects. It's also going to really going to support us deliver the Beyond Zero initiative that we've got here. And I do believe we can do it from my experience with all the partners involved. We've got some fantastic people, not just in the partners in Yorkshire Water and the assurance partners. I'm really confident we can do this together. So I just want to now we've just got a quick video, and then I'll hand over to Amy Linfoot.
The Oxen Hope project is one of the 80 YNEP schemes, and the aim of the project is to improve river quality by removing phosphorus and ammonia discharging from the treatment works. It was sort of identified as sort of one of the YNEP early start schemes, so we started on the scheme for 18 months ago. So it was one of the first schemes to really test sort of the new AMP7 way of working, and both in terms of risk appetite, but also the end-to-end process we were going to be following. So there's been loads of different sort of parties involved in it, from ourselves as Stantec as the strategic planning partner, to various teams within Yorkshire Water, so asset planning, the environmental regulation team, and the technical authority. So we've really all come together as a CPT to really look at the challenge we're facing, both financial in terms of delivering the project, but actually also sort of the scale of the construction activity on it. So we sort of sat down and started working through what sort of some of the options were that we could use to sort of tackle the problem and think differently. So sort of, I guess, over the 18 months, we've really got to know each other. We've understood what the issues are, what the areas of challenge are. But to be able to sort of challenge, we've had to work together to really make that happen and realise that benefit. The scheme had an ammonia driver on it. Delivering that element of the scheme would have involved constructing in a farmer's field on outside the treatment works boundary, and not really something we wanted to do. So the team came together and looked at how we could actually resolve that in a different way, how we could change the consent. So from a we own it perspective, it was a problem that we had. We really didn't want to build on that parcel of land. We looked at the data, we looked at the information, we looked at how we could challenge it. So our technical people working with the environmental regulation team, sort of pulling it together to pull a really great case together to justify a change in consent. And then the we own it bit is then following that through and taking that through to the Environment Agency and being able to successfully renegotiate the ammonia consent, which ultimately meant we've not had to build on that greenfield site. We've managed to keep all the works within the site boundary.
Hi, good morning everyone. It's fantastic to be here today to talk to you about the Yorkshire Water brand. Our Yorkshire Water brand is so important, and I guess you would probably expect someone who has the title of head of brand to say that. But it really, really is important to us as an organisation. Our brand is what our customers think about us, it's what they associate with us, it's what they feel about us. So how we show up every single day is so important to us as an organisation, and you guys have a really big part to play in that and helping our brand look and feel and sound amazing. Just flick to the next slide. Perfect, thank you. So I guess just a little bit about why our brand's really important to us. So just like you guys spend lots and lots of time looking after the pipes, the pumps, the treatment works, the assets, they all have maintenance plans, and you look after them really carefully. So do we about the brand. So our brand needs the love and care and attention that our pipes and pumps and treatment works do. So we've been working over the last year in line with the work on the big ambition to really renew the Yorkshire Water brand, give it a new lease of life, to make it look and feel in line with where we want to be as an organisation. So what you can see on the screen now is a little bit of a snapshot of our new brand. It's launched internally, and we're just starting to work through how we launch it externally. But you'll see it's just really bright, really vibrant, really reflects who we are as an organisation, and lots of work has gone into that to make it feel like where we want it to be. Now, obviously, you guys are part of the Partnership for Yorkshire, which is fantastic to hear everything that's going into this and the way that the team is going to work. And coming with that comes the responsibility, I guess, of you guys as our partners to use the Yorkshire Water brand and the Partnership for Yorkshire brand in the right way. It is an extension of our brand. It will use the same colours, look the same. I have a slightly different version of our logo. So if you click the next slide. This is what it will start to look like. It's really important that we work together with you guys. You are out in the region, working in the network, working at our treatment works. You're what our customers see, and we want you to feel like that one team. We want you to feel like part of our brand, part of our organisation, and a really big part of that is to help with the identity. I know somebody, Martin, on the chat has asked us about PPE and uniforms. What me and my team will be doing over the coming weeks and months is working really closely with you on what we call our partnership branding. So this is what the Partnership for Yorkshire will look and feel and sound like and show up, and we will work with you and your teams to make that work on your vans and on your uniforms and on the livery and passes. From everything, as I say, to email footers, to PowerPoint templates, vans, uniforms, to site signage. We'll work really closely with you to make sure that shows up right, and that you guys can really help us to make the Yorkshire Water brand come alive with the amazing work that you're doing every single day. Haven't really got that much more to talk to you about. We're really excited and looking forward to working with you guys as we move forward. So thank you very much for having me today, and I'm going to pass over to Simon Reynolds for your Q&A session.
Okay, thank you, Amy, and good morning, everybody. Yes, my name is Simon Reynolds, and I'd just like to start by saying a absolutely huge thank you to each of our presenters this morning for providing a fantastic and really exciting insight into Partnership for Yorkshire and clearly demonstrating why we are better together. So thank you firstly to our Yorkshire Water Chief Executive Officer, Liz Barber, to our Chief Operations Officer, Mark Horrobin, to our guest speaker, Dale Evans, to Shane Davies from Interserve, and to Amy Lynn Foote from Brand. And of course, to our Chair of Partnership for Yorkshire, Mark Baker. So we're now going to move on to the question and answer section of this morning's event, where I'll be putting the questions that you have raised during the presentations back to our panel. We've had some really great questions that have come in via the live chat, so thank you for those, and we'll try and get through as many of those as we can during the time that we have got. So without further ado, first up we have a question. It's anonymous, but the question is around, really sounds exciting. Can you tell us a little bit more about how it will be different from AMP6? So panel members, who would like to pick that one up first? Mark, see your hand up.
Hi, thank you, Simon. Yeah, I think the key thing for us, if you think about AMP6, is we were in very much a transactional relationship with our partners. We had a limited choice on where we could go with our partnering communities, and sometimes that drove the wrong behaviours from both sides of the fence. So it's not just necessarily from any other side of the fence. What AMP7's about is actually getting the best athlete, best people for role, actually looking at who are best suited to deliver our programme, not creating that hungry hippo mentality, but really driving the most efficient way of us end to end delivering the vehicle. So one of the big things that we're doing through AMP7 is actually around programme allocation. We've worked really hard with Beth Kennan and James Harrison's teams in asset management to bring the programme through in lumps, not just in individual projects, so we can maximise the amount of efficiency we can deliver, and we can also look at what we can do around production style techniques and geographical, regional kind of efficiencies we could make. We're still in a low level of maturity, guys. I'm not going to say that we've got it all, we've taped it all, we've got a lot more to do, but we are really working towards that kind of program level thinking, TOTEX hierarchy thinking, and bringing the best athletes to bear to be able to deliver the program really effectively. Thanks, Simon.
Okay, Mark. Horrobin, I noticed your hand was up. Do you want to come in as well?
Yeah, I mean, just to add to that, obviously, people have been aware of our finals determination and the ongoing process with the CMA. I think the partnership for Yorkshire is no longer a kind of a nice to have. It's a necessity, and therefore perhaps I wasn't here in AMP6, but from my kind of view of the world, this is something which we need to embrace to be able to hit FD. So it's already in our plan. So this is not a nice to have. This is really something which we have to embrace because we want to get to FD, which is a kind of there's a carrot and stick about this, but actually there is a kind of commercial reality to it as well.
Okay, thank you, Mark, and thanks again for the question. Moving on now, although maybe related to the previous question, we have a question from someone. What do you think will be the critical success factors of this new model? Who wants to pick that one up first? So what do you think will be the critical success factors of the new model? Mark Baker.
Hi, Simon. Yeah, probably Dale could add a little bit into this as well from his external view, but I think the critical success factors really are around, behaviours and mindsets, and that's really going to come from the capable owner, the capable, intelligent client, which is us as a Yorkshire Water perspective, but really also needs to come from our partners who step into that space that Dale talked about earlier and really get involved and help to co-create and drive our ability to be a really high-performing enterprise. But we need to enable it. As Yorkshire Water, we absolutely need to enable it. We need to create the right commercial environment. We need to create the right behaviours and mindsets across our piece as well to support and really work with the teams really well.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Mark, for that, and thanks for the question. Moving on.
Dale's got his hand up as well.
Sorry, Dale. Yes.
Can I add a little bit from a wider perspective? And again, if you look across the whole group and said, what are the key success factors? Then it is about, do we change the environment? Do we start to see a different set of behaviours? And I think it's absolutely fine to, well, not fine. I mean, I think we should, hold ourselves collectively to account around behaviours, and can we see how those behaviours start to change? And if they don't, then what gets in the way and what's stopping us? So there's a whole thing about using behaviour as a key indicator that I think is absolutely fine. Maybe some of the historically in a technical engineering environment we haven't maybe been so good at is putting behaviours front and centre. So that's a critical success factor. I think the whole bit about, as I mentioned, being good at bringing teams and organisations together to work collectively., we shouldn't take that for granted. We should try and be really, really, really good at that. I think the whole bit about, using behaviour as a key indicator that I think is absolutely fine. Maybe some of the historically in a technical engineering environment we haven't maybe been so good at is putting behaviours front and centre. So that's a critical success factor. I think the whole bit about, as I mentioned, being good at bringing teams and organisations together to work collectively. We shouldn't take that for granted. We should try and be really, really good at that. And I think maybe Mark's already mentioned this, but I think recognising that there is a difference here, and we do need to work differently. And the one that I would really work through early now is that bit about partners stepping into the space and recognising they are now engaging in a completely different way. This relationship is now formed in a different way at a different point, and that needs us all to step up. And I'm not just saying that here. I mean, I've highlighted that's a key lesson from some of the early adopters. So make that a critical success factor as well.
And Mark Horvin, do you want to come in, Mark?
Yeah, let me just quickly add to that. I think it does come back to benefit for all as well. I've done quite a lot of kind of big kind of transformation change programs in many sectors, and if you can't prove and develop a benefit for all, then a partnership does tend to fall away quite quickly. And so we will need to prove that, and it will need to have a kind of economic and capability impact on it. Sorry, that's my Labrador just barking in the background. But it's the benefits for all thing which we need to kind of drive home if we can. I'll leave it there, as my Labrador is going to dominate if not.
Okay, thank you, Mark, and Dale and Mark, for those insights. Moving on to the next question. I like this question particularly. Anonymous again. If I have a world-class solution that will be beneficial to Yorkshire Water, who do I speak to? We like those sort of questions. Sounds exciting. Who wants to pick that one up? Mark Baker?
Hi, yes, that's I absolutely like to hear that, definitely. World-class solutions, bring them on. We were, what you'll see at the end of this is we've got an email address, P4Y at yorkshirewater.co.uk. That's where you can make first contact with us. What my team will do is we'll then bring you straight to the point of the individuals that you need to talk to. So we're going to take, as Partnership for Yorkshire, a very direct approach to making sure you get right to the nub. I know most of our supply chain in the past I've really struggled with who do I speak to within Yorkshire Water, and maybe got that resistance and a little bit of blocking in the past. But what we will do is, as part of our team, we will get you to the right individuals to unlock that world-class solution and get that embedded within the business. And thank you for bringing it.
Dale, did you want to come in?
Yeah, well, so a supporting point. So I think the question comes back to some really important bits. Again, this is about outcomes, isn't it? And Project 13 talks about outcomes all the time. I've heard the panel talking about outcomes, and what we've been asked to do here now is to deliver better outcomes. It's not, we're not being asked to just deliver things and build stuff. And it sounds like a simple shift, but it's actually fundamental, because if we think about how we deliver those better outcomes, then that's what enables us building less. It enables us to think in terms of carbon. It enables us to think in terms of digital solutions rather than just assets. So the whole outcome piece, and recognising that in the end, what we're doing here is delivering better outcomes, is the bit that I think opens up the opportunity for innovation and different ways of working. So, build less, carbon, digital, they're all enabled by outcomes, and that's what I think this question alludes to.
Okay, thanks panel for your answers, and particular thanks to the person that raised that great question. So moving on, the next question is around collaboration. The vision at the start of AMP6 was all about collaboration, and we didn't seem to achieve it. Do we truly believe this time we can make it work? And have we learnt the lessons from what didn't work previously? And then a third part to the question: how do we make the AMP7 vision a reality when we haven't succeeded in AMP6? Who wants to pick that one up first? Mark B.
Yeah, I'll probably add a little bit, and then maybe Shane could give a reflection from his view of how we've been working recently. I think Yeah, I came in, at the very early beginnings of AMP6, and it was all about true collaboration. I think the reality is we collaborated when we chose to. In reality, when it benefited individuals, I think what we're trying to do here is something substantively different in the fact that we really have to drive the mindsets and behaviours, and I'm not sure we landed that with AMP6. I think the key thing from AMP6 was we thought we created a contractual arrangement that created collaboration. Collaboration doesn't come from the contract. Collaboration comes from people. And what we really need to work on is our mindset and our behaviours, and really work hard. And I think that's one of the reasons why we've underpinned it by the behaviours that are aligned to the Yorkshire Water goals, that we are better together, and we own it together. And I think that's what we really need to work on. But it's not going to be easy, guys. We're not saying that there's a flick of a switch and we all are immediately in a really great collaborative environment. We really need to work hard on our behaviours and call it out together, and be honest with each other. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I guess just to add to that, I think from my point of view, I think the how will this be different to AMP6? We have got a behavioural framework that we've got that helps us think about what good looks like for the enterprise for Yorkshire. So it does set out what good behaviours and bad behaviours look like. Now, yeah, that is only just a set of words, and what do the words really mean? So I think I think there's about each and every one of us all taking that responsibility actually to look at that, but look at them behaviours, drive them behaviours ourselves, but also hold each other to account. If we're in meetings or in programme boards or sub-programme boards, and actually we're not seeing the type of behaviours that we need for AMP7 and for the Partnership for Yorkshire, we should hold each other to account, absolutely. But I think, from my benefit, what I have definitely seen in the various steering groups that I've been involved in is there is some fantastic behaviours. We've had, the first year of AMP7 has been, quite a difficult year for some of the partners due to workload, but I haven't seen that hungry hippo workload, mentality by partners when it comes to work allocation. It's very much been best athlete approach. Who can really support the Partnership for Yorkshire, looking at geographical, who can respond, and actually, some businesses backing away saying, well, actually, that's not best for the partnership. So I think, it is early days. We have got a long way to go, but I think I am seeing some really great examples across all organisations. That's including Yorkshire Water and the assurance partners, where we can really make a difference with this.
And Mark H, you want to come in?
Yeah, I think good collaboration works when it's a two-way process, and I think perhaps we've been guilty of the past of being a little transactional, and perhaps we should start a step further back and start talking about some of the challenges which we're trying to solve, because I think that will help our partners design solutions which we actually need. I think the frustrating thing as a COO is you probably get about 10 emails a day with people trying to kind of sell various things to you, but they don't work because there are things which they don't kind of meet the kind of some of the problems which we have, and therefore I think we do need to have a better dialogue with in the Partnership for Yorkshire, where we begin to articulate some of the kind of the challenges we have and things which we want people to work on, because I think that will make it a better collaboration.
Okay, great. Thanks, panel, and thanks again to whoever asked the question. Moving on now, just more of a point, but relates to collaboration, I guess. I believe if we all wear Partnership for Yorkshire branded PPE and clothing, it will bring us closer together and make us feel as one team. Anybody want to comment on the branding? Mark Baker.
Hi there. Yeah, I think a bit of feedback coming through, but I'll try and carry on. So yeah, I think the key thing that we've aligned to with all the steering groups, engaging with the steering groups, is we need to be behind the the customer outcome and the customer branding, which is Yorkshire Water. You know, we're here in the long term for Yorkshire Water and our Yorkshire customers. So our intent is to be, one identity partnership for Yorkshire. We've consulted and agreed that across the steering groups and with the portfolio board that's the way we want to go and travel in. We're not looking for independent identities or individual logos, because that's not the ethos of the one team approach. So we want a one team, one identity. We all get behind that identity, and we see that as a very powerful message for us all.
Okay, thanks, Mark. Thanks for that. Moving on to the next question. This is about the program integration team. So the question is, who are the program integration team? What are they working on, and how will this be shared? Who wants to go first on that? Mark Baker again.
Hi, yeah, great question. Thank you very much. So the program integration team has only recently just been formed as I talked about earlier, of all the varying different partners across our partnership for Yorkshire. They are currently looking at the strategic roadmap. The head of program integration is a lady called Tracy Lowe, and Tracy reports into me through the Partnership for Yorkshire board. And Tracy's looking at the implementation plan, the priorities. We're looking at what we can unravel as an initiative. So the Partnership for Yorkshire program integration team has very much been divided into key areas that we see that could bring some real great best practice. So we have a people lead, we have an engineering lead in Martin Jolly, who you'll be aware of, a supply chain lead looking at supply chain integration and how we bring supply chain closer. We've got an off-site manufacturing production lead. We've got a planning and scheduling and programming lead. We've got a change management specialist in there as well. And it's all about them driving the waste out. And I've seen, from some of the other Q&As around our red tape and bureaucracy, that's a big key focus for that team, to really drive out all of the red tape, all of the indecision, all of the, that we hide behind. We must do this kind of discussions. That's what they're there to do. But they're also about bringing across industry best practice around production, manufacturing style techniques, understanding the end-to-end process, looking at behavioural, looking at production style mentalities. That's what they're there to do. And you'll get to know them more over the next few weeks, and we'll be doing more events where we'll be introducing that team to you as we move forward.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mark. Getting a little bit of feedback myself, but moving on. Next question, anonymous again. Some great stuff here, and obviously a lot of need for innovation, change, and improvement to deliver our aspirations. But how are we going to support people with ongoing training and development as part of this? And will the provision of this sit in the integrator? Who would like to pick that one up first? Mark?
Yeah, sorry, we've been the lead on this. I probably know most of the answers, so apologies if I'm taking over the panel a little bit here. But yeah, I think we've got a people lead, Garrett Anderson, that's working closely with us at the moment to try to unlock how do we make sure we get the right kind of organisational design, the training, the competency, the capabilities across the entire partnership for Yorkshire that make it a great place to be, and really driving that employer of choice goal that we've set, an ambition. So there will be more coming out from that respect, but we are absolutely clear that we need to make sure you've got the tools, you've got the capabilities, you've got the training, you've got the competency, and whether that's fed through from our Yorkshire Water kind of training environment, or whether that's fed through the Partnership for Yorkshire, will be something we'll be unlocking in the near future.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mark, and thanks for the question. A question here about best. We've talked about best athlete for the job. How will those best athlete partners be recognised and selected moving into AMP7? Shane.
I guess from my experience, what I've seen is that when we're working in the sub program boards together, all the partners and Yorkshire Water working as one. When we're having discussions about projects, it's very much the selection will be down to that best athlete at that time, and that's that can be through capability from what previous works happened, as well as experience. Now, from what I've seen and what we want going forward is to companies really to try and draw out what they've got within the partnership for Yorkshire, but also draw out wider when we've got these challenges. So the selection for best athlete very much comes down to the sub program boards when we're talking that through, and we're talking through the work to be delivered. And I've definitely, I know it's only early days yet, but we are already having them discussions, and that conversation when it comes to the allocation in the various steering groups, and then that's now going to be going into sub program boards.
Okay, great. Thanks, Shane, and thank you for the question. Changing topic now to further down the supply chain. And question is around how do we look after the smaller contractors, suppliers further down the supply chain to make sure that they also benefit from this approach, and the main contract partners still engage the smaller suppliers such as MCC suppliers in transactional arrangements or otherwise. Who wants to come in on that one? Shane? Yeah.
I think the whole of the the ecosystem for this needs to be that we are treating tier 2, tier 3s exactly the same way. So all the partners will be engaging in a very different way with them going forward. And we totally agree that it can't be one and not for everybody else, because if we are going to make this truly sustainable and a fully functional, it's really about getting closer to the MCC suppliers, those suppliers, and actually really trying to draw that out and bring them into this as well. So definitely shouldn't be any difference or with it with approach. So that's down to behaviours, the way we deliver the work, and I do believe that that's where we're going to get the best value for the partnership for Yorkshire, if we're really getting down into all these organisations and really getting the new innovative working and products that's out there on the market. So yeah, there definitely will be further engagement. I mean, like I said earlier, that we're just starting that example on the enterprise way of or partnership for Yorkshire way of procurement, and that's something that we want to echo across all the different programmes.
So, Simon, can I just add to that? So I think it's a great question, and I'd be really confident that as you develop an enterprise approach, this is one of the things that will change, and it can't change overnight, is it? But over time, I would be really confident this will change, and we won't see these relationships in hierarchical terms. We won't see them as tiers. We'll understand, what does that relationship do? How does it influence what we're trying to achieve? And therefore, how do we best engage, and how do we form the right relationship? And the actual specific example that was raised in the question is a good one, because you're talking about an activity which is actually core to and hugely influential in terms of what we do. So clearly, it's not a transactional distant relationship. The example mentioned should be a strategic relationship. So some of this can only happen as the enterprise develops and evolves. Really confident one thing that will change. We'll start to consider relationships in a very different way.
Okay, thank you, thank you, Dale, and thank you, Shane. Thank you, Shane. I guess a question that's just come in that just kind of links to that. Is there any culture change program planned to support the changes required to become a high-performing enterprise or partnership for Yorkshire? Mark Baker, hand up.
Yeah, thanks, Simon. Yes, I think it was short answer to that. I'm just suffering because I'm getting a bit of feedback. Yeah, the cultural change program is being developed at the moment, and we're looking at how that influences the people strategy. So there'll be more to come from that very shortly.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mark. A question that from Jasper Mund the team. Some great project examples demonstrating what can be achieved. Is there a plan to capture and promote learning, perhaps as case studies, for example? Who wants to come in there? Mark B.
Yeah, it's a good question. Thank you. Yeah, there is a comms and engagement plan that's being developed at the moment, which includes, how we capture all of the great learning and lessons and best practices and get that across the board. So we're currently developing something we will be launching as an example. We're looking at having these sessions at least every 3 months going forward, and having key themes and topics where we're engaging as a team. And rather than this being like a broadcast talk to, we're trying to work it out of a virtual way in this really unprecedented time on how we engage in a collaborative sense to get, a sharing and learning across the piece. So yes, we are building up some business cases. Yes, we are trying to pull together at the moment a comms and engagement plan. And we're also looking at, we've just recently launched the common data environment, and we're just working through how that will work really well for everyone and bring all of that kind of learning and share that learning to the entire partnership for Yorkshire.
Okay, great. Thank you, thank you, Mark, and thank you for the question, Jasper. Great question. I think we've got time for maybe 2 or 3 more questions. So another one that's come in recently is, what are the key outcomes of Partnership for Yorkshire, and how are we communicating this? And also, how will we measure against these? So what are the key outcomes for Partnership for Yorkshire, and how are we communicating this? And also probably relates to another question that we've had about communication generally. How are we going to improve communication going forward? Mark, did you have your hand up then?
I did, yes. Thank you, Simon. Yeah, it's again great question. We're not great at communication in the past, are we? And I think that's one of the things that we're really are focusing on from the Partnership for Yorkshire board. So we're currently in the process of putting a comms and engagement plan together. We are working with our program integration team at the moment around the transformation. So one of the key things around transformation and change is, how do we get the right metrics to measure and ensure that we're on track? So Tracy's working with the program integration team and with the Partnership for Yorkshire board at the moment to understand how we get the right kind of metrics. We're working very closely with the Yorkshire Water wider enterprise team as well, and the EPMO sat within Yorkshire Water, to ensure we get the dashboards and the metrics right, and we get that in a very open environment where people can see that and understand that our direction of travel. So it's still a little bit in its infancy. I would recognise that, but we are moving very rapidly over the next few weeks and months. You'll start to see that flowing through.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mark, and thanks for the question. I think we've probably just got one final question. Time for one more question. So we'll finish on a safety-related question, if that's okay. The question is, what does safety beyond zero mean? Shane, you want to come in on that?
Yeah, thanks. Great question. Yeah, thanks for that. It's a great question. Yeah, so safety beyond zero means that for the Partnership for Yorkshire, this isn't just about not having. So we can't have accidents. We can't have anyone getting hurt, and that's the absolute minimum. So working in the Partnership for Yorkshire needs to be a safe environment for anybody, or it's for anybody actually working, and actually doing work. So the Beyond Zero piece means actually looking at improving people's health. So it's about mental health and well-being. It's about really taking. So when people come to work for the Partnership for Yorkshire, actually it's about improving their health, not just about accidents. So I think it's in a totally different arena. We know we're in a mental health and people's health is high on the priority, and it's definitely high on the priority for the Partnership for Yorkshire. I've been involved with Jaspel and everybody in the Health and Safety Forum, and that's something that we see as a key part that we're missing. So it'll be so to answer the question, is definitely about the Beyond Zero bit is not having any accidents, but actually equally actually improving people's health from anybody that works from the Partnership for Yorkshire.
Great, thank you, Shane, for that. So, okay, everyone. Sadly, time has beaten us this morning, so we'll have to draw the Q&A to a close at that point. Just remains for me to say again a massive thank you for all of the questions that have come in. There are a good number of questions that we haven't had time to answer, but we will pick those up and look to get responses out to everybody on those. And again, thank you to our panel today for the answers to all the questions asked. Finally, as Mark mentioned earlier, we've got a brand new email inbox dedicated to Partnership for Yorkshire called P4Y at yorkshirewater.co.uk. So if you do have any more questions after this morning's event, when you've had time to reflect on what you've heard, or any ideas or general comments, then please send them through, and we'll get responses back out to you as soon as we can. Okay, so before I hand over to Mark Baker to close out proceedings for this morning, after popular demand, we're going to replay this morning's introductory video. So that's coming up in a second. So from me, a final thank you. I hope you enjoy the video, and please continue to stay safe, everybody. Thank you. We can't hear the sound, guys. Okay, so there is some music that goes with that video. Sometimes these type of videos can be technically challenging. Guys, do we want to try that one more time? Great.
That's great. Thank you. Can I just ask everyone to go on mute, please, because I've got a bit of feedback. So thank you very much everyone for coming to the event today. Obviously, you know, the key messages are, you know, we are on a journey. This is a big transformation for us as a team and wider through our partners and our supply chain. And, you know, we all need to be on the journey and absolutely focused on delivering the outcomes for our customers, which will make us a great company and make us a great partnership for Yorkshire. You know, there is a great ambition here to be a high performing enterprise. You know, this is not new. A lot of this, you know, this is very much, as Dale alluded to earlier, it's best practice across infrastructure and beyond the other industries that we've seen that actually can demonstrate this kind of enterprise approach. So please, you know, help us to make this a great place to be. We really need to be on board. This is a real compelling need from Yorkshire Water for our customers, for us to be able to deliver our outcomes really greatly and really do some great work and deliver great assets to our colleagues. So it is a long journey. We have got a maturity level to go through, and sometimes it may feel quite hard, but you need to keep the faith. We will get to the end of it, and it will be a considerably better place for us, considerably better place for the whole of the partnership for Yorkshire. But we have to take a leap of faith. If you're looking for clear metrics, if you're looking for clear examples, you won't find them. An element of this is, as Dale alluded to, is really about us looking at outcomes, really about testing ways of working and being curious and being involved and absolutely getting involved in that journey. So I thank you all for participating. Please keep involved. You are part of the partnership for Yorkshire, and we want to make this a great place. Thank you.